Welcome to the For the Love of the Game podcast with your hosts, Jefferson Belfort and Brian Hernandez. Brian, what is up, my man?
What is up? What is up? We are back with episode 53. I'm excited. It's been a crazy couple months, especially in the basketball world, but just even for us, as always, working through a lot of life circumstances and everything. But of course, at the end of the day, we're back, ready to talk about basketball. Super excited. Jeff, how are you doing?
Doing good, like you said. Life circumstances have changed, and it's for the better, you know. But I'm always happy to come back to the podcast, be able to chime in on what we're seeing and what we're thinking about everything that's going on in the league. Just know that, and obviously you know this, but like the listeners know this as well. We're a tenacious bunch. Even though stuff are happening in our lives, we're always going to come back to this podcast and hopefully give you a quality listen for the next hour to two, if you choose to listen to us all the way through. But I guess that's how I'm feeling.
Yeah, no, I'm couldn't agree more. And at the end of the day, hey, we're doing this for fun. We love talking about basketball. So as long as there's basketball, we're always gonna be coming back at the end of the day. So yeah, no, really excited to talk about all things, especially playoff basketball today. Jeff, let's get into it.
This episode and all episodes moving forward are sponsored by Lockspread. With the NBA playoffs here, series like tonight with the Knicks and the Heat, Lockspread is going to be your new best friend to get your best daily fantasy picks in. Lockspread allows you to take the challenge in multiple sports, not just the NBA, with options in the MLB, NFL, UFC, etc. Whatever player, whatever game. Know that Lockspread will have you covered. Remember, when you log into Lockspread, to use our promo code to take advantage of all of the sign up bonuses. If there's a game, it's always a lock with Lockspread. Thank you for listening, and thank you, Lockspread, for the sponsor.
Yeah, all the information is down below in the description for lock spread. Remember, code is 4TLOTG for the love of the game.
Perfect. All right. I guess let's start with the Eastern Conference, Brian. There was a it was there was an amazing surprise in that first in those first series. So I'll save that one for last, but let's go first to a place of happiness for you and talk about the 4 and 5 seed of the New York Knicks. Up, not upsetting, honestly. Complete domination of the Cleveland Cavaliers, but I will call it an upset for the fact that it was a domination. Brian,
Yeah.
what do you think about that series?
Yeah, it's especially as of today, feeling that like the complete opposite's happening right now. Exactly what the Knicks did to Cleveland, Miami's doing to New York, which we'll get to more later. But especially in this Cleveland series, I think it was a type of upset. I think if you looked at just the national media, if you look at just a lot of people were talking about it, and most just basketball fans, Cleveland had the better team, and Cleveland realistically should have won. Like they had more talented players and everything, and the Knicks just kind of came out and dominated. They just had a different type of energy than we really ever seen them before, and it kind of showed the inexperience and how, or I guess even how important experience and that kind of leadership is just for the playoffs. Like we're saying of, all right, like I was just saying that I think Cleveland had most of the best players. You think about Donovan Mitchell was easily the best player in the series. Thinking about Evan Mobley is maybe the third best. If you have, Donovan Mitchell, Jalen Brunson, you could have at the time. I can easily see you say Evan Mobley is better than Julius Randle, and then you have like Julius Randle. You have Jared Allen. Jared Allen for the longest time was a better center than Mitchell Robinson, and things just kind of went completely different and not how people expected at all. It was a super low scoring series, and Cleveland and the Knicks did exactly what you kind of expected them to do, just like play a lot of bully ball and just play defense the entire time. And fun series to watch on my end. Definitely not expected though. But before I go any further, Jeff, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, no, as we're out of that series and we can now see what's happening in the second series, I think there's a little bit of like, you look at that Cleveland team and they kind of maybe think of regret of like, we didn't come prepared. Because obviously no one would have assumed that the outcome being another one of the series that now the Knicks are in right now would be the outcome that they would be looking at. I think they would have thought that they had a fair chance, a really good opportunity to make it to Eastern Conference Finals, or arguably even the finals if they were able to make it past this first round. Now, unfortunately for them, um, we look at the Knicks and heading into it's never over when it's 3-1 nowadays in
Yep.
the NBA. So I still say that there's a chance here, and I'm not trying to steamroll into the next round, but there's still a chance, right? Is what I'm saying. But now we're looking at the Knicks with that optimism of yeah, they can make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. They can very well make it to the finals. Um, if there was a way to put how I feel or how the Knicks I feel should feel about this is incremental progress. Like it's you were in the playoffs 2 years ago. You missed it last year. The last time you were in the playoffs, you didn't make it to this point. And then the last time you were in the playoffs, I'm pretty sure you didn't win a game.
Yeah.
And it was in 2012 against the same team, or was it 2013? Was that last year? The Knicks was
Um,
in the playoffs.
I think it was 2013.
2013.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I'm not sure. I don't remember
It's
exactly, but
2012. I think
yeah,
2012 is the infamous year of the Amari Stoudemire
yeah,
hand
yeah.
injury.
Yeah, I
So
think 2013 they actually might have made it to the second round. Then they lost to Indiana, and Roy Hibbert just destroyed them, and it was so sad. So sad.
and we'll get to that. We'll get to that soon. But yeah, no, I think that they should see this as incremental progress. This is a team you could get behind. This is the type of store you start selling to the next available player or role players to add to your team. And like, man, I think I've been saying this since the beginning of the year. I thought that Jalen Brunson was a solid pickup for the Knicks and what he brings to the team. And then even better at at the deadline, bringing in a guy like Josh Hart to this team is huge. It's immense, and that those two guys are going to be selling points in my
Mhm.
mind for how this Knicks team continues to construct themselves in the offseason if they don't end up in the promised land.
Yeah, it's I mean exactly what you're kind of saying of right now as the listeners are actually when the listeners are going to hear this, the conclusion of the series is already done. In my opinion, even as of the game is going on at the moment, I think the series is actually just over. Like just the energy, the way the Knicks are playing and everything. I think it's doesn't matter if they win tonight. I think it's just kind of done. But we're talking about like, hey, this is a step going forward. And at the end of the day, if we looked at the beginning of the season, we talked about it. I think Vegas had it. Like everyone was just kind of looking at it. It's like, how does this Knicks get out of the play-in? Like, how are they just not like? You can very easily see the world before the season started that they even missed the play-in. And it's so crazy to see them like actually get that fifth seed. Everyone in New York just wanted to see like a competitive series, and then they actually end up winning. So it's pretty crazy on their end. I will say it's kind of sad on Cleveland's end in the sense of this is kind of not how you wanted to show out after going all in for Donovan Mitchell. Like you did everything you had. You gave up all your assets and everything. You still have all, the top main players and hope that they can get better in the future. But as of right now, like that was just kind of your best, and that's how you showed up. Maybe you're thinking about potential coaching change because in that series, JB Bickerstaff did get outcoached by Tibbs, and even right now, Tibbs is getting outcoached by Spoelstra. But but like in these things, I think coaching is pretty important. And then you think about it, like I'm gonna ask you the question, Jeff. Do you think that you can win when a team can win when you have Donovan Mitchell as your number one option? Do you think that's a possibility?
I thought that was a no, even in Utah. I thought it was pretty evident in Utah. I think that they can be a good regular season team when Donovan Mitchell is your number one player. But like what we've seen through generation over generation, and it's always gonna continue being that, you need a dominant wing. That team
Yeah.
lacks in that specific position, right? Like if you don't have a dominant wing, you have to have a transcendent big, right? And is Mobley at that point? You would say he could be that, or he's going to be that. We don't really know yet. So that's where I say for me, I don't think Donovan Mitchell would be the archetype of guy that leads him all the way there. Even in case like a lot of people like to bring up the anomalies, right? Like the Isaiah Thomases, the Steph
Yeah.
Currys, all of those guys were in situations that were made for them to be successful, right? I'm not saying that like their success was stemmed to that team, but in association to how great of a player they were, but the way that team was constructed around them just made it a lot easier for them to become successful, right? Like
Yeah.
having Draymond, you don't have a Draymond on that Warriors team. I don't think we see the Steph Curry that we see. Same thing with a Clay. It's the same thing. You go back with an Isaiah Thomas, and you look at it. You don't have a Joe Dumars on that team. You're not the you, well. Joe Dumars is not the reason why they're the bad boys, but like, you know what I mean? Like he's a part of the bad boys, but Joe Dumars not there, you don't win championships. You don't have Bill Laimbeer, you don't win championships, you know? You don't have Rick Mahorn, you don't win championships. That's the same exact thing that I see with the Warriors and having a smaller guy be the leader of it, right? Being that number one option, right? So that's how I see Donovan Mitchell, unless if it's completely constructed like perfectly where Mobley takes the load off. I don't know what to say about Allen. I don't think Allen has that in him to go to the next gear. We'll see. He's still relatively young,
Yeah.
but I think they're pretty. Even with Garland, I think Garland has a next gear, right,
I
and
think
the
he
next
does.
level that he could get to. Even through that, I see them too small. I see them as a too small of a team. In this offseason, let's see what they do about addressing that wing position, and maybe they go for a run after that.
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, at least looking at Cavs fans after the series, the biggest thing I think I heard everyone just talk about was just the disappointment of Jared Allen. And you think about it, like everyone is expects Mobley to get better. I don't think you can win with Donovan Mitchell as your number one guy, and you kind of at the moment have to hope that Evan Mobley can turn into that number one guy, which I think is easily a possibility. I think he can get there. Is he going to get there? Who knows? I think at the moment he's closer to like a number three, and Darius Garland was their best player that series. He was so hard for the Knicks to stop to guard, and even though Donovan Mitchell at times had his spurts, him just being so ball dominant kind of just stopped their offense and it made things a little bit slow. I think I think if anything, that's probably enough a deep dive on the Cleveland Knicks series. But you know, for me, well, probably one of the happiest times in the last few weeks, and right now to one of the saddest times. But Jeff, any last thoughts?
The duality of sports, right?
Yeah,
But
exactly.
across the this will be a fast one to get
Mm.
through. But on the other side of the bracket, we have the 3-6 matchup in the East with the Philadelphia Sixers and the Brooklyn Nets. It was not even a gentleman's sweep; it was a flat out sweep. Brian, what do you think about this series?
I, you know what? I wasn't too mad at the series in the sense of looking at it from Brooklyn's perspective. I thought most of the games were pretty close, and I feel like most of the games, I don't know. At some point, I could have seen the Nets come away with a win, and of course, you would want to see them come with a win. But at the end of the day, I think you just kind of have to be excited for Mikal Bridges. I mean, that guy's just looks so good the entire time, and I don't know. Like I'm excited to see how he comes up. I think everyone kind of predicted just the how the series was going to turn out, especially after KD and Kyrie and the whole debacle and everything. But this Nets team is fun, and of course, it's a big difference when you're going from championship aspirations to this is a fun team to watch. But it's
Back,
better.
you mean
Yeah,
back to a
yeah,
fun team
yeah.
to watch?
But I think it's better than championship to oh my god, how do we get better to all our guys are all super old and the window is 2 years and we didn't win and this is all sad and everything. Like I think the Nets are at a pretty cool spot right now that you can see, and I think yeah, I mean there really isn't that much more to be said on my side. At the end of the day, I'm a question for you. Do you think the series could have gone any different if you had someone like Ben Simmons on playing for you? And at least where do you see that going forward? Because I mean, it's giant James Harden
Like
for Ben Simmons. Like, it's tough.
Ben Simmons of what like lifetime?
Yeah.
Like that's the biggest
Even
question.
how he was
Like
playing in when he was playing this year for the Nets.
um nah, I don't think it would help. Like honestly, maybe one game.
Yeah.
That's all I could see as like him being a difference for. But I don't foresee him being helpful at like where he is now. Now, if you asked me 2, 3 years ago, Ben Simmons, maybe it would have helped. Maybe it
Yeah.
would have been a very interesting series. But like just like how Ben Simmons' time in the Nets has been, this series has been very anticlimactic. It was very, very. You knew exactly what you were getting. You
Yeah.
knew what was going to happen. Like I don't think there was anyone in the world that foresaw the Nets beating the Sixers in the series. Not only that, yes, there were some entertaining games, but like they were just all games where I don't think the Sixers ever feared that they were going to lose any of those games. Like that's where I'm upset about the series about more or less. Like if you're fighting tick for tack every game, like yes, I can understand that. And there was a few games on the tail end of the series that it felt like that a little bit. But you always knew, like there was always something in the back of your head
Yeah.
that told you the Sixers are going to win this game. Like, and I remember sitting and watching Game Three and seeing Claxton get that tech that got him out of the game, and I was
um.
like, yeah, you know what? That's we lost this game. Like I
Yeah.
knew it at that present moment that it was over, and there were some questionable moments with technical fouls. Um, on both sides. So like, it got testy. It was you expect that too. You did want at least see them show some fight. But I don't think there's much to talk about it on the Nets side. They have, like you said, an interesting offseason that they're heading into. I, for one, do not believe that those decisions should be made by the current GM in place. I think when
Mhm.
you clean house completely. You do not just leave the remnants of the past. And I know there's some people that may see it otherwise, where they've believed in what Sean Marks has done in the past. But there's some stuff that just becomes egregious, like about how this year went. And I'm not going to divulge that much into it. I'll wait for when we talk about it in the off season.
I real quick, one question about that, because I feel like, of course, other than how he handled the KD and Kyrie situation, like you said, we can talk about that another day. Was
Mm.
there like another move that you thought, or was there a move that you saw him make that you just were like, that's ridiculous? Because I think at the end of the day, looking at KD, Kyrie, and all James Harden, and all this stuff, I feel like for the most part he did the right move. And a lot of unforeseen circumstances happened that it just made it really hard for them. And now looking back at it, it's like that was a terrible decision. But like in the moment, I feel like most of his moves were like actually pretty solid. And he did a pretty decent job. What do you think?
I see it. I see it like this, Brian. I just find it inexcusable in certain aspects of it. Like smaller beat writers. I think it was I was watching a podcast recently that was speaking on how he was given at the deadline a few options. You know, after the season starts to come to
Yeah.
an end, like they start airing out certain things, right? And I believe it was Nets staff writer for the Athletic called Mike Scotto that wrote about he was offered few very interesting packages where when I look back at it now, I think I would have took that because the Nets are in a situation where they own their own pick this year, right?
Hmm.
I don't understand like what we did in that second half of the season. With I think they won 12 out of the last 27 games or something of that nature, 12 or 15.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Um, were they from the rest of the season? That's below par, right? I'm sure we all understand that. Um, I just think that the Nets could have just tried to give it a go for a shot at that pick because you own it this year, right? You own
Yeah.
that pick this year. Reason why I say that though is because there was an offer on the table for both, not just DFS, who was already a man that was struggling in his time being with the Nets. There was also a trade out there for Royce O'Neal. So you could made a trade to recuperate some of the pick values for both of these guys. DFS, it was said that there was two picks that was being offered for him, right?
Well,
And then for Royce O'Neal, you sent out a pick for him. Might as well get it back. You know, it was a perfect time to get those picks. That right there just shows me that they're just not aligned on something in the front office. And and if it is all just a Sean Marks like decision making, that is already like in my mind like undescribable that you would not take those picks because when the grand scheme of it and you look back at the series, you look back at the rest of the season, if you let one of them go, would you really miss anything, you know?
yeah. No, that is pretty true. I'd imagine they're just like, hey, we're trying to be competitive, we're trying to win. These are guys that help us win, and that's probably just like the thought process. Which, you know, never. I think as a fan, it's always easier just to be like, yeah, let's tank, try to get the best pick possible. But it feels like just a lot of front offices kind of don't agree with that kind of thought process, unless you're like not even like the Thunder. Still, I feel like at the end of the season we're trying to win some games, which of course, you know, making it to a play-in game and doing all this stuff. Like none of that actually helps them in the grand scheme of things. They're trying to win a championship. I feel like at the end of the day, most teams kind of do that. The only one that actually did the clear tanking this season was Dallas, which is pretty funny. But like other than that, like you already know when the season starts when a team is like straight up tanking, and there's generally not too much of a pivot,
Yeah,
like we
and
saw.
I don't necessarily say they had to
Yeah,
tank. I just say, I mean, you have pieces that just don't align with like the success you're going to
yeah,
be looking for at this time, right? Like, I don't think this team was going to make it to the second round or make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. These pieces like that you would have sold would have been teams that are sharpening their iron.
yeah,
And most of the time when that happens, you actually win out because those guys, when they send out a pick to you, usually our teams are desperate, are
that's true.
desperate to have a guy
Hmm.
add in and to be an add in and at the end of the season for them to potentially make a run. So like I just thought that one of them could have gone and to
Yeah,
not trade either one of them is a problem. But like I said, don't want to go over all of
yeah,
his
yeah,
GM
yeah.
miscues this
We could do
year,
that
but
later.
that was one of them that definitely felt egregious to me.
Yeah, no, definitely fair. Let's move on to the next series.
All right, perfect. So, Mr. Ice Trey thought he was coming back to win that series, and the 2-7 series. Celtics finished it up in six. Brian, what do you think about that series?
I was actually surprised that Atlanta put that good of a fight on. Like I feel like at some point Boston fans were like a little bit like, wait, what's happening? We're supposed to like be dominating 24/7. Like we should not be in this position right now. And it should have been a gentleman's sweep or even a sweep in general. I Trey Young, as much of even I think before the series even ended, like we saw the reports saying that they're going to be looking to trade him in the off season and this and that, and can you win with Trey? There's all these talks and everything, and the man balled out. And this is what he does. Playoff time is generally Trey Young's time, although not enough to get through the Boston Celtics. That team is always really good. You know what I am surprised about, and I kind of want to get your thoughts. I always feel like in the playoffs, especially recently, I'm a little bit underwhelmed by Jason Tatum at times. Like I feel like there's just games that he just completely disappears, and at least that worries me for Boston's chances to actually win a title this season. What do you think?
Um, I think that this series was more of like uh, it wasn't that the Atlanta in my mind put up a great fight. It was more of that this series is more about the Celtics than it is about the Hawks,
That's
right?
true.
The Hawks gave it a valiant try, got two games. They have a superstar in Trey Young. So you knew they were gonna fight, right? They were gonna give it a good try. And then they have a team that's had a little bit of success in the postseason a few years back, fluke or not, you made it all the way there, right? Like
Yeah.
to the Eastern Conference Finals, and you can pat yourself on the back for that. So you knew they were not going to give up like easily, right? For me, it just kept on screaming something that I've been thinking of the last month and a half, is that the Celtics feel kind of fraudulent to me about like
Hmm.
making it to all the way to the finals. Hey, I could be wrong. Like I really could be wrong.
Yeah.
Like that's the nature of the game. But uh they just didn't he never felt like after that second half of the season, what where they completely dominated in the first half of the season, um there was like chinks in the armor that started to show up, and you started to feel that maybe they're just not as good as everybody thinks that they are. And the way that they handled those last couple games started to show that to me. A championship team ends it like decisively. They don't make it. They don't let the team stay around and linger and win a game by luck, on not by luck, but by chance, by literally just like, staying in it, just staying close, staying in the game, and just sealing one or two games in the series. When it's decisive like this, when you're a championship team, you win it decisively, and they just did not show that in that first round to me. It is also something that we'll be talking about later because, like, I feel like that's still lingering for them.
Yep. No, I think that's very well said. And let's leave it there. Nothing too crazy. I think I feel bad for our Atlanta fans. Well, not really, because I'm the biggest Atlanta fan in general. But no, I feel like their owner just kind of destroyed that team, and just a lot of really bad decisions, and
Yeah.
not the year that they expected to have, especially trading what, 3 first round picks for DeJounte Murray, and then he wasn't
Yep.
even playing some of those games in the playoffs because of that disaster. But yeah, fun times for them.
Well, let's finish up the East with the surprise. I think the surprise of the whole playoffs now is, but I guess it could be argued that it is even a surprise. But the number 8 seed, the not defending, but last year's Eastern Conference runner ups, the Miami Heat, defeated the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, the most impressive part about it, not only did they defeat the Bucks, they beat them in a gentleman's sweep. Brian,
Yep.
what do you think about that series?
I think it's pretty crazy. Like, I think this Miami team did exactly what, like, they looked like they were supposed to for the regular season. And it's just crazy how Jimmy Butler can kind of just take it to that next level, and he can do what he does. And I remember even watching, I don't remember, was it the first game or the second game, but when Tyler Hero broke his hand, I was like, oh man, it's over. There's no way they can do this. And Jimmy Butler took it to the next level. And then I saw that Victor Oladipo got injured, and I was like, oh, now it's really over. And then it's it's crazy what Jimmy did. And I really don't think, I mean, I still think this Milwaukee team should have won without Giannis. And I understand, I mean, we all know Giannis is one of the best players in basketball. He's so important to that team. But I still think like that Milwaukee team should have won. And I think it's really crazy that Miami ended up winning. And I mean, just looking at Jimmy's performance in those games, it's not crazy when you actually watch it. But going into this, I don't think anyone saw this coming. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree 100%. It feels like I'll never get um, vindicated for how the situation ended with the Nets and the Bucks in 2021, but this might be the closest to um, karma, I would say. I remember around that time, like the same things that Milwaukee Bucks fans are complaining about at this time
Yeah.
is you lose a star player in the series, it really does impact like how the rest of the series go. But like you said, they had more than enough to
Hmm.
finish this up against the Miami Heat.
An injured Miami Heat too.
And the thing is, it's not like Giannis didn't come back. He came
Yeah.
back into the series. I think it just makes sense it makes sense that they would have been able to close out the series or make it more competitive at least. So losing five, man, is and it's not like Giannis missed a whole series. He only missed two.
Yeah.
That's just, yeah, like it's why Mike Budenholzer is at home. Like,
Yeah.
let's just be honest. And I know eh, people are going to discuss like his head wasn't in the game at that moment. Completely can understand that, but it's still inexcusable as a coach. You step away then. Like to
Yeah.
I just don't like when a report like that comes out after they lost because we wouldn't hear that if they won the series. And I'm not trying to minimize like that something tragic happened in his life with his brother passing. But that story, I'm pretty sure, would not have came out if they did not win the series. Because we've seen in the past where coaches stepped away because something personal happened in their lives. It's bigger than the game, you know?
Yeah, I think looking back, that would have been the correct decision. And I think just even if you look at the last few years, like Mike Budenholzer, I feel like there's been a lot of criticism. Even the season, I believe that he won the championship. I think before that, if they didn't win that year, he was probably going to be out anyway. So I think they're just kind of waiting for something like this. Writing was on the wall. Unfortunate what happened. Like, of course, your heart has to go out to the guy, but I think this team was just looking for someone else. It's interesting to see where Milwaukee goes from here. And, there's all the talk around now about, contracts coming up. A lot of these guys are older, this and that. Has this team actually improved? They weren't good enough to get it done this year. This is the best team. Like, lose to the 8th seed, even though feels like a fake 8 seed, but hey, it's the 8 seed there. And you should have had the opportunity. It was really bad. And even just like that last game, it's that's not how this should have gone. And there's so many opportunities to close it out, and I feel like they blew it time after time.
I agree 100%. Moving on to the West Coast. I'll do a little bit differently. Let's talk about the most interesting series, I think, of the West Coast was the 3-6 series, breaking records in like viewership, like every game for this series. But the Warriors wind up besting the Sacramento Kings when it was all said and done in 7 games, 7 brilliant games. The last game wasn't as great, but
Hmm.
it definitely was a series to that I think everybody enjoyed to see. Brian, what was your thoughts on it?
Yeah, this was one of the craziest series that I've seen in a while. It was so fun to see the amount of scoring and honestly kind of the lack of defense a lot of times that I saw on the court there. But the trash talk was awesome between Sabonis and Draymond and just seeing De'Aaron Fox kind of just go off in games, the light the beam stuff, and Curry taunting them with all that. Like, this was such a fun series. I I think I was always kind of expecting Golden State to win, but I don't know. It feels weird to say proud, but like I could have been more proud of just like how I saw Sacramento come out and play. And even though like, some guys coming out with injuries and everything, like playing through like De'Aaron Fox in his hand, like that's what you want to see. This team has so much potential going forward. Like I'm excited to see it. I feel like Sacramento is always kind of a place that like, I don't know, players don't want to go. We've been talking about it this whole entire time. Even Halliburton kind of trying to change that direction there, but like now this is actually like a really exciting team. I think it's or actually one, I want to get your thoughts, but two, I want to get, is this a disappointment in your eyes for Sacramento? Even though like they finished the 3rd seed, they were one of the best teams in basketball for a long time, one of the best offenses, and they lost in the first round of the playoffs. Is that a disappointment to you in your eyes?
I don't think it's a disappointment just being that playing the defending champion, right? No matter where they're seated, they're the defending champions. They
Hmm.
they just have the track record of how to get it done, right? So kudos to them to even bring it to 7 with a team like that, right? Um, I think they should be proud of where they are right now because like it just goes to show like kind of like what I was saying with the Knicks. It's incremental progress. You spent 16 years outside of this. Most of
Yeah.
the guys on that team don't even know, don't even have never even sniffed what a playoff series looked like. To play like that, to keep yourself in it. I think there's a lot of people that went into seeing Game 6 and expecting the Warriors to finish it up at home. For the Kings to come out and win that game on the backs of guys like Malik Monk and De'Aaron Fox, man, like it just goes to show like this is a team that if I'll go as far to say, like, in my mind, they are where Memphis was in my mind last
Yeah,
year or 2 years ago,
I agree.
and like a young team that just needs to stay hungry, put the pieces together, and work hard. Right now, I just feel Memphis has put. We'll get to Memphis, but like I think they're just like they're not there anymore in my mind, right?
Yeah.
And the Kings have completely taken that over. Um, I think everybody could have assumed that the Warriors would have won. There was people like me that wanted to think that the Kings could have done it, but I'm happy with how it ended and how hard they played.
Yeah, I think well, even we saw like everyone's talking about how oh people want to play Sacramento. They're the easy out. This, there's and that. Like I don't think watching that series anyone could even say that they were like an easy out. Played a really tough series right there. I do like your comparison though of this team towards this Kings team towards Memphis last team or last year, and like they're just like the good guys version of Memphis. Like if this was like a mirror world, like this is exactly, these are the good guys. These are the guys you root for. You root for lighting the beam. You root for all this. This is good vibes. Memphis are the bad boys over there.
Yep. I guess that's a great way to segue into
Yeah.
that series. The Lakers finish it up in 6 games against the Memphis Grizzlies. Brian, first thoughts on that?
I am, well, I think it's more I'm very impressed by the Lakers. And I think I even said like a lot of the moves that they made, I was just even during the trade deadline, like I was surprised that they even were able to make those moves. Like that the reason why like Minnesota wanted to dump D'Angelo Russell is kind of even crazy to me. And then they're trading away like Patrick Beverly for all these like getting rid of that Westbrook contract. Well, he was his expiring contract, but still like no one even wanted to touch Westbrook with a 10-foot pole. And then they're able to flip all that. Like, hats off to Rob Pelinka. Like that's a masterclass move of helping your team just get solid all around, because you made a terrible mistakes before signing all these guys, trading for all these guys, and you got bailed out really hard. So hats off to you. Lakers are playing fantastic right now. Memphis, I think it was always going to be a little bit tough for them without their big guys and Steven Adams and Brandon Clark. And then it's just the whole John Morant situation, the Dilla Brooks situation. It was just, they just looked like a complete disaster. They looked like they were waiting to implode, and they did implode. And it was yeah, it was not as close as I still expected it to see, but I think at the beginning of the series, I was kind of leaning towards the Lakers to win. But I think the Lakers took care of business in pretty convincing fashion. What do you think?
Yeah, no, it when on the trade deadline stuff that you say, it actually gets me so it just gets me so mad. Like because they literally got 50 cents on the pennies,
Yeah.
right? Like that's literally what they did on every one of those trades. And you look at those trades, I'm not an NBA GM, but when I look at those trades and I look at what they sent out to get back, I
Hmm.
looked at every one of those trades and go like, there's not one of these trades that the Lakers lost. And I think it just has to be that these GMs are just terrible. Like because they were all in cahoots that we're going to help the Lakers be in a
Yeah.
position to be successful. Because like honestly, and obviously, not every part of the trades have succeeded, but they got the right type of role players
Yep.
in there, and it gives you the remnants of 2020 when they made the run in the bubble. That's what this team gives you, or
Yeah.
gives you that vibe. Would I say that I thought that they would have won the series like that? No, I don't think I would have thought that, but I knew that they were going to be a very difficult out, as we can see now, in the second round too. That they're a very difficult out with an actually loaded team. These last couple of years, that we never had a problem saying that we don't. We've never questioned LeBron or AD's game. We just said, can they stay on the court? And
Yeah.
besides them staying on the court, who's running with them? You know. And now that they have people that can actually run with them, which I don't think will last forever, right? Like some of these guys are on expiring contracts. I would love to see Rob Pelinka go out and do it again because it's going to be hard to do that again, right? A lot of the time, like it was indecision for a long time because they didn't want to move those last couple picks that they have. So as they're moving down this timeline where they have more flexibility with picks, what do they do? What do they think of? About like putting it around 80 and LeBron again next year. But they have a good chance at this championship this year, which is something I don't think 6 months ago I would ever say, but they really do have a good shot. Memphis, I don't even got it. I don't have nothing to say about those guys. They're disappointment. No, there ain't no party in this city, bro.
No. I just love the fact that they talk so much trash for these last 2 years, even actually really like last 3-4 years, and like have nothing to show for it. But like it just they made themselves like the bad guys and everything, and then the bad guys lose. And at the end of the day, everyone loves to see the bad guys lose, and it's really funny to watch. It's really cool to watch. As a Memphis fan, I can only imagine how infuriating all this is. I am actually curious as to like how their tone around John Moran is with all this stuff. Like I feel like he apologized after all the fiasco he's having in the beginning and the middle of the season, and then I feel like there's still controversy coming out with him left and right, even though nothing, even though he apologized and everything.
It's just it feels it's funny to me, and everybody sits on the spectrum a little bit differently or how they feel about the situations, but like it's hilarious to me that Nike drops Kyrie to add on another athlete, and that athlete decides being John Morant, and he becomes arguably his issues are worse,
Yeah, yeah,
arguably
arguably.
like destructive. Well, Kyrie's is destructive as well for a different reason. More of the smoking word
More,
variety.
yeah, yeah, yeah. More
Rather,
violent though. You're
yeah, because John Morant is more on the violent side, or inciting violence side of things, where Kyrie's isn't. But it's just funny that that's who they gave it to next, and there was
that is,
some very very I think deserving guys that they could have gave like a big time this year shoe deal to. So that just made it so interesting to see. But
yeah.
moving
Couldn't agree more.
on, 2 to 4-5 series. It was a gentleman's. It was a blah blah. It was a gentleman's sweep for the Phoenix Suns over the Los Angeles Clippers. Brian, what are your thoughts on that series?
This one is honestly kind of felt like probably one of the more forgettable series in this entire playoffs. It's well, one, what Paul George got injured, and then it was Kawhi and his load management just did not work out, and it was a complete disaster. The man sits the entire season just to be
Just
hurt.
to sit out a series, too, man.
It's so bad. It was not pretty to watch. Like that was not pretty to watch. When Kawhi did play, he looked amazing, but it kind of gets to like we were talking about the Lakers before and like LeBron and Anthony Davis. Like when those guys play, it looks really good. But how often are they going to play? How reliable can you count on them to actually be in those scenarios? And Kawhi rest the entire season to not be ready for it. I think I liked what I saw from Phoenix. Phoenix, I like the combo, the 1-2 punch of Devin Booker and KD and everything. and we didn't get to see it that often during the actual regular season. But you know, I like what I saw. But what do you think?
It's just so crazy to see how we don't talk we don't talk about as much of a disappointment has been on the Clippers side
Oh, it's
as it
huge.
has been the flip of the coin as the Nets. Like we look back at that 2019 with all of those teams that decided to pair up some stars. We had the AD and LeBron, and then we had the Kawhi and PG, and then we had the Nets with the kid with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, and then what was that last team? The Bucks just put a hodgepodge of great players together, and we wanted to see out of those four who would succeed. And I'd say, arguably, like looking at it now, like the Lakers may go to another finals. You could say it's a little bit successful, but like even them, they believe that they built something that would win them multiple championships. Like
Yeah.
they didn't expect it, like it to look like what it looks like now. But they are, kudos to them, making a run for it right now. They could get that second chip, but like I put them right in the same door as the Nets. Like they're disappointing. Like the load management thing does not work. It is if there hasn't been if anything could tell you that this doesn't work, they will start using this precisely as the prime example of why it doesn't work. The fact that he decided to load manage in the middle of a series, like
Yeah.
after you load manage the whole season, like it was just it that's just egregious. Because it kind of just shows like where's his heart lie? Like, is it really still in basketball? Because PG, when he went down last year, PG stepped up, man.
He did.
Like I feel bad for PG is that this had to happen at this point in his career. Because honestly, you look at all of the series, and we have one more series in the first round that we need to talk about. The Clippers had all of the pieces to win a championship this year. Like, and Kawhi couldn't wait a month. He
Yeah.
couldn't wait a couple weeks to carry them from the first round to the second round and let PG come back in the West Conference Finals if they had a chance. Like I just don't understand that one. It's I saw a quote from Lawrence Frank, who is the president of basketball operations for the Clippers, say that it's over.
Yeah.
Low management over. We need to prioritize the regular season again. And I think that that's a stance that kind of feels like what the Nets had to do with the KD and Kyrie. And it just might mean this is kind of towards the end of this marriage between these players and the Clippers. And let's see where they head after that. Phoenix is a flawed team too, though. I don't give
Mhm.
them any credit for winning the series. Like they're a team that just lacks a bench. Like
Yeah.
they just happen to have so much star power. And when you got Kawhi to go down and you got PG to go down, it just makes it easier for you to win that series.
Yeah, it really wasn't anything crazy on Phoenix side. Exactly. It is kind of crazy that you mention, and I definitely agree that like the difference of conversation between the Nets and KD and Kyrie, and then the Clippers with Paul George and Kawhi. Like it really doesn't get talked enough about of how disastrous that really is. And I guess it's more just like if you really think about it, just even in terms of both persons or both star duos, like personalities and controversy wise, like Katie and Kyrie. Katie loves to talk on social media and all this other stuff, and Kyrie has all his stuff going on. Kawhi barely talks, and Paul George is generally not a very talkative guy. I know now he has his podcast, which is pretty cool. But before that, he's generally just like getting injured a lot. And you don't, when do you really ever see a ton of like Paul George commercials or anything? Like it wasn't really that much of a talk, even though I think talent wise, pretty close. I still, of course, I think Katie and Kyrie were better, but like I think it was pretty close. And even we come into this season, I know you and I talked about it. Like we were both very high on the Clippers, and of course, we're thinking about them from full strength. But man, what a disaster! I think it's done.
Just didn't think
It's
it
over.
would translate into the
Yeah,
season. I mean, into the postseason if you were doing all of that.
yeah.
But yeah. Move on to the last series of the first round. I think this is a quick one too. The Denver Nuggets finished out the Minnesota Wolves in 5 games in a gentleman's sweep. Brian, what are your thoughts on this series?
I think very quickly, it's that from the Minnesota side, Anthony Edwards is him. Anthony Edwards is next. That guy is so good. Karl Anthony Towns completely out on Cat. I'm completely out, and I'm completely out on Rudy Gobert. I feel like I was probably the last person on a Rudy Gobert island. I was like, oh man, look at his defense. That guy is so good. Yeah, he doesn't have the offense and everything, but that guy, he does everything else. He's a one-man defense. I am so out. I am. This was probably one of the worst takes I've had, just thinking that Minnesota was gonna be any good, and I wasn't. I think I was probably even lower on Anthony Edwards, but that guy's legit. He looks like MJ, and play a little bit like him too this series. But and then Denver is just Denver's nice. I think Denver's always kind of been like a boring team, but Denver's nice.
Man, they did show out in this series. Obviously, the former MVP,
Hmm.
Jokic, man, he showed, and he is still showing why he won 2 MVP. Like the thing
Yeah.
is, a lot of the time people are having this conversation about the MVP thing and him not winning it, and not watching the games or being able to have
Yeah.
the ability to see him in games. Now you will because he's in the
Hmm.
playoffs and he actually has a supporting cast that can help him win series.
Oof.
He's pretty close to doing going
Yeah.
back to that Western Conference Finals. If he makes it there, hopefully the rest of the world could start to see this guy's no joke. Like I think his lowest scoring output in this playoffs was 20 points. And let's think about it. Let's be
Yeah.
relative in relative terms. We're talking about a guy earlier, Ben Simmons, that won't even take shots. Like, and that's a guy that I'm pretty sure around the same time they got drafted. I think it was the same year. I'm not sure 100%.
It might
I
be
think
actually. Yeah.
2016. 2016.
Let me look.
Um,
While you keep going, I'll find out.
but yeah, so like you look at that team, they're solid. Like you said, Anthony Edwards definitely is going to be an amazing, amazing player in this league. But now it's on the T Wolves, and I agree with you too, Brian. I was definitely someone that was high on the T Wolves. I was talking about they could make a surprise all the way to the Western Conference Finals. Um, but they just did not let those pieces mesh. They have a lot of talented players, though, which
They
is
do.
crazy. So I think it's part shops like sale now. Like they sell off some of these pieces, see what they can keep to build around Anthony Edwards. But it might be, like you said, the experiment of Cat might be over. You might need to go to a team where he's relegated more to like that third best player or second best player and see how he fares that way, because clearly it's just not in his cards to be the number one.
Yeah, it's sad to see. I mean, Cat's still a good player, but like you're saying, he's not a number one. I think Anthony Edwards can definitely be that number one. Depends on if Cat can actually take that step back. I just they traded everything that they had to get Gobert, and so like it's heartbreaking to try to get other draft picks and all this stuff now because it was such a bad decision.
Yeah,
um,
literally. So
to your question though, of if Jokic and Ben Simmons were in the same draft, actually no. Jokic was 2014, Ben Simmons was 2016, so pretty close. But yeah,
yeah, man, that makes it even worse, though.
that makes it
That
even
makes it
worse.
just even worse. for me because I would say like Jokic, you know, is like well, I guess because he spent some time away. Like, did he was he stashed? I think he was stashed
He
for the beginning
was. He definitely
of
was.
the
I
year.
was literally just about to look that up. Like, wait, when was actually his first season playing? 15, 16. So
Okay,
pretty
so
close. Yeah.
yeah, very close there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so still, I still think that's relative. They're relatively close and like in age and experience in the league. Like those two guys, like see how one could go one way and one could go the other in two different places in the draft, right?
For sure.
But as we move on, we'll just go through these a little bit quicker. We'll start off with the Lakers and Golden State. I believe they play today. Is that correct?
They do play today. Yes.
Thursday the 10th of May. Um, they will be playing. Brian, does the series end tonight or does it extend? And if it extends, who wins the series?
So we have so the listeners are going to understand. I mean, by the time that you guys are listening to this, we'll actually know what happens. But you know what I'm going based off of who's going to win it all right now and who's going to win tonight. You see that TikTok of that dog hitting that basketball guessing. I'm going with Golden State. We're going 3 in a row. That dog hasn't
Yeah,
failed us yet. We got it.
yeah. Put all the cards in the Golden State bucket.
Yeah.
With like that dog.
Like that dog
I
TikTok.
I disagree. I think the Warriors do win this next game, but
Yeah.
crazy to say this, but I think the Lakers finish it up in Golden State in Game 6. They put him to rest in Game 6. All right,
Crazy.
let's move on to the next series. It is the Denver Phoenix. Phoenix have their backs against the wall, and a winner takes all game 6 tomorrow, May the 11th at 10 p.m. Eastern time. Brian, does Memphis? I mean, does not Memphis? Does Phoenix extend it, or do they lose and head off to the all season?
I think it's gonna go to 7. I think I think when you have someone like KD on your team, like that guy's gonna take it to the next level, especially for this next game. Since it's an elimination game. But I think I'm gonna give it to Denver though. I'm gonna give Denver the win in 7. Jokic is too good. I think this Denver team is I think it's the best team right now. I, I'm I'm that high on this Denver team. I don't know why everyone's so low on them for the most part. No one even talks about Denver. Like this team, this entire time is finally healthy. There's been all these years when they've just not been healthy, and Jokic is still playing at the level that he's been playing at. Michael Porter Jr., Jamal Murray's back. All this, you got Bruce Brown, and like all these guys are so good. They're such a well coached team. They do everything right, and you got your star guy. I'm so high on Denver. Hope I'm not proven wrong, but I think they can actually win it all. What do you got? Who do you think is gonna win?
I don't know why I just felt like a little bit of deja vu, but I felt like I have like a prediction in my mind that that I said in the past, and like it's like this is coming into fruition. But I call it this way, Brian. Game 6 ain't like like Shaq said about the Knicks yesterday on TNT. He was like,
Yeah.
they're only packing one suit. That's what Phoenix about to do. They're only packing one suit. But I hope everybody understands what I'm talking about and how they're making
Yeah.
fun of Shaq with the suit shit.
Yeah.
There we go.
Good.
There's the first one. But
Yeah. We back.
but yes, but I think that Denver finished this up in 6 games, and they're riding into the Western Conference for a rematch against the Lakers. Man, it's coming back. They're coming
Yeah.
back. The Bubble Boys,
The
it might
Bubble
be
Boys.
it could really be a complete rematch of
Yeah,
like the 2020 bubble, like Eastern Conference and Western Conference. So
it'd
that's
be crazy.
that's where it could be interesting. But heading into the Eastern Conference semifinals, a matchup, we have the Boston Celtics on the brink of elimination. Brian, they will be playing as well tomorrow on May 11th at 7:30 Eastern Time. Brian, who do you got winning this series?
I got Philly. I got Philly. I think what James Harden needed was just that flight to Las Vegas, and now he's back. He's back. He had to hit the clubs and everything, and James Harden's back. Maxi had a nice last game. Embiid is coming better from his injury and everything. He's been playing injured. I don't know. I'm never that high on Boston anymore, and I feel like we saw this even last season, where one game Jason Tatum has a great game and Jaylen Brown kind of takes a step back and not as good, and then Jason Tatum has a terrible game, but Jaylen Brown has a really great game, and I feel like it never happens where both guys are on their next level and doing exactly what they need to do. I don't really buy it. I don't believe it. I'm not a believer, but I got Philly winning this. What do you got?
Brian, I got Philly as well, man. And I'm sure you remember this,
Mm-hmm.
but earlier in the season, I
Ooh,
had this
you
team
did. You did.
going as far as winning this championship. I don't want to jinx them yet, but I do think that they're finally going to take Joel Embiid to his first Eastern Conference Finals. Um, yes, I think Harden needed to shake a couple cobwebs, but you don't need like I agree with you. It's starting to feel to me that a lot of the superstars play like this now. Is where they'll have one game on, one
Mm-hmm.
game off, and like it's not like sheer dominance, but that goes back to where I think we need to start putting a little bit more respect on Jokic's name. Is Jokic has not had one of
Yeah.
those games all season. I mean, all of this postseason. So like, there's one clear guy that is playing his heart out every single game. But yes, I think they could live with Harden having these 40-point games out of nowhere, flash in the bottle type of situation, and try to ride that. And then have Embiid be the MVP that he is to
Yeah.
win these series. That 33 points that he put out in the last game was very impactful, needed for them to win the series. Obviously, they started the series without him too. But I think that they're in a good position to make a run for that NBA Finals, and obviously finish this up and go to the conference finals first. But
Yeah.
going on.
I'm glad we agree on this one. It is kind of crazy. I will say I will give you all the credit. You were very high on Philly from the very start. I actually was not. I was very high on Boston and everything, and they're as of right now proving me wrong. I was very low on Philly. I didn't really believe too much in James Harden. I didn't believe that much in Embiid. Man won the MVP. I would love to see a Philly or Embiid versus Jokic in the NBA Finals. That'd be crazy to watch. That'd be so fun.
Man, honestly, I should start. I should, I should really be getting into like the sports betting world because I feel like I've been hot.
Yeah.
I've been hot on some choices. If we really think about it, I did pick
Yeah,
those three, the
you did.
exact order of the MVP, and
You
and then
did.
like we said, don't want to jinx the Sixers, but they have a real good chance at making a run at it.
You're
And that's
right.
something I've been proclaiming since the beginning of the season. And let's see what happens. But the last series, Brian, I'm so sorry, man. I
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
this one might hurt, but as we sit right now, they are playing in Madison Square Garden in Game Five. But the Knicks are in the brink of elimination. Does it end tonight, Brian, or do they extend this series?
You know, It's been tough. It's kind of crazy. I wish we recorded a lot more, at least there in that last series. I just saw Bam just do a cool dunk. I wish we, I wish we recorded more in the last series because I feel like after or before every single game, I had a really good read on like if I just felt if the Knicks were going to win or lose a game and like if there's going to get blown out or anything like that, and it went exactly as I expected. This one, I've just kind of also had the feeling of Miami's just a better team. Like Miami's a team I was very afraid of, and I've been saying it for the longest time. Like I feel like Miami's just always just a better version of the Knicks. Like they do very similar things, but just better. And at least this series, we're actually seeing it come to fruition. I know before the series actually even started, I thought the Knicks actually had a chance. I thought I was going to go to like even 6 or 7 in the Knicks' favor, or I was more hoping in the Knicks' favor. But I think it ends, and it feels silly saying this even now. I think it ends in 6. So I think the Knicks at least get it today, and then they lose it back in Miami. Um, Listeners, tell me if I'm when I'm wrong when you're listening to this, but at least I don't know. That's how I'm feeling right now. I do think the series is over, so it doesn't really matter. But I hope they avoid the gentleman sweep. But Jeff, what do you think?
You might you might think I'm crazy, but I got the Knicks taking it to 7. But unfortunately, I do have them losing. But
That's a little
I
crazy.
think uh, I think I was listening to Jalen Brunson talk about it earlier. That's just a committed guy, man. Like that's a really
Yep.
committed NBA player. Um, there's not a lot of guys in the league that are built like him, right? Like, and it's easy to say that, like a lot of people always want to say that.
Nah.
That's like throwing cliche saying right here, built different, right? Like,
Yeah.
but like let's be honest, he really is built different in how he plays. Like the guy is not the most athletic guy on the court, not the tallest guy on the court. I've been telling you this recently. He gives me shades of Jason Kidd,
Yep.
like in how he leads and how he plays, and it's not ironic that his last team that he was on, his coach was Jason Kidd.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure he gleaned a lot of that from him. And like I think he's the perfect guy to have in this bridge year for the Knicks to go in to next season looking for other pieces to fit that mold. I guess to finish up the conversation about all of the brackets is my last question to you is where is your standpoint on Julius Randle heading into this offseason?
Ooh, that's that's tough. That's tough. Before I answer, I wanted to actually comment on the Jalen Brunson thing. Of man, that guy is something else. Exactly what you mentioned. Of he's pretty much he's not doing. He shouldn't be this good. Like he really shouldn't. Like just he's honestly. I think they listed him as 6'1", 6'2". That man's like 5'11", 6 foot. Like 6 foot on a good day. He is something else. But I think it's more like one, his mentality that he comes in with and into every single day, and his leadership. Like I really just think about like, hey, put someone like DeJounte Murray in Jalen Brunson's seat. This Knicks team is not even close. I think this Knicks team is probably out, not even playing. And I think he affects the team so much more than just what his numbers are. The man plays his heart out. Man plays injury. Does everything you want in a player. At the end of the day, of course, you always wish, like, man, what would that guy do if he was 6'6" and super athletic? Like, that would be kind of crazy. Couldn't have more praise for that kind of guy. On the Julius Randle front, now that's a man that's like 6'8", pretty athletic, and like 250. It's so crazy that how everything is so mental with him. And he talks about himself pre-games. He does this whole meditation thing now to try to get his head on straight. Jalen Brunson, you mentioned, a huge factor as to his turnaround again this season. I think I would still personally hope to move away from Julius Randle if you could. I just don't. I don't really know like who would even want Julius Randle and in anything like that. And any if you try to do some trades, the guy is so talented, but especially I feel like Julius Randle. There's a lot of conversations about, oh, is he a 16 game type of player, or is he a 82 game type of player? I think Julius Randle's a regular season type of guy. Like that's the type of guy he is. I don't know if he's necessarily made for the playoffs. Someone like Jimmy Butler, as you see, very clearly made for the playoffs. Very clearly can handle that type of
Jalen Brunson.
situation. Jalen Brunson, I think he's a playoff type of guy. Julius Randle is not him. You would want to move away from him if possible. I don't know if it's possible.
I agree. Well, we'll put a bow on that right now. We are heading into the conference finals and then eventually into the NBA finals. That is our recap.
Yep.
Brian, do you have any final words before we close it out today?
Nah, I think one, it's always fun to do this again. I love talking hoops with you, Jeff. It's always a great time. I hope you guys enjoy this. Let us know what you think. Let us know if you disagree with us. Always love to start the dialogue, and let us know, listeners. Who's your take on who's going to win it all? Who do you want to see it all win it all? Yeah, Jeff. Any last words from you?
Yeah, my last words would be, you know, enjoy these playoffs because next year we just don't know what it's going to be like, man. You thought it was about to drop, but
Yeah.
nothing was there.
Hey. All right then. Well, that was episode 53.